Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar celebrating really the first year of the Wade Institute at Manomet and Manomet Conservation Sciences as a united organization. My name is Molly Jacobs. I'm Manomet's Vice President for Education, and I'm going to get us started here and then introduce some of the awesome teammates as we go. So I'm actually going to start by talking briefly about the person who first brought us here, Patty Wade. She was a really amazing woman, a true trailblazer, somebody who graduated from college at a time when women didn't usually go to college at all. She was one of only 7 women in a first-year class of 728 at MIT, where she earned a degree in chemistry in the class of 1945, and then went on to have a really remarkable career with a very strong focus on the environment and on education here in Massachusetts. And she is the founder of the Wade Institute for Science Education. And her vision at that time was to improve science education by bringing teachers directly into contact with science and action. It's been around now for more than 40 years. But Patty wasn't just a leader for the Wade Institute. She was also a leader within Manomet Conservation Sciences. She was our chairwoman of the board for several decades. And she was during a very formative time for our organization, and she remained a very strong voice that's influenced Manomet's success in many different ways over the years since. And to this day, I think you can really see her influence in some of our most successful work. So in many ways, the Wade Institute coming under the Manomet umbrella was a very natural progression. And so I'm excited that this webinar is a chance to honor Patty's work for both organizations, while at the same time talking about what coming together has brought for us. So for those of you who may not know Manomet as well, who may be coming to us from the Wade side or the education side, Manomet Conservation Sciences began as a bird banding station in the late 1960s right here in Massachusetts. Sort of a ragtag group of ornithologists who realized that this was a great place for migratory birds, started camping out, and eventually formed the organization. And we still band and monitor migratory songbirds like this yellow-breasted chat right here. But since that time, like over the 55 plus years since then, we've grown to a Western Hemisphere-wide conservation organization that's particularly known for our work in shorebird conservation. And our work is a real combination of science, on the ground, local conservation work, and education. And we conduct research and do this work from the Arctic to Patagonia. And we also we have a thriving coastal resilience program, particularly in the Northeast and with fisheries in the Gulf of Maine. And if you look at this map, the dots show some of the areas where we're working currently. And at Manomet, we think of effective conservation work as something that's not just science, not just protection, but really encompasses collaboration, partnership, community engagement, and education. So zooming into our education team, our work is focused on environmental stewardship, because we really are sort of creating the conservation partners of tomorrow. Professional learning for teachers, who we see as leaders and catalysts, climate resilience, STEM education, and youth conservation leadership. So today, we're going to tell you 4 stories from our first year that encompass who we are and what we're doing as a combined organization. We're going to talk about connecting teachers to science, about how we support teachers, which is very important work in science education, about supporting teachers and people to see themselves in STEM, no matter where they're from or how wacky they are. And then we'll end with a really exciting peek into a new horizon, a project or an initiative that really wouldn't have been possible when we were separate. And really, it's our combined work that has made possible. So for those of you who don't know this, in April 2025, the Wade Institute for Science Education, the organization that Patty founded all those years ago, officially became part of Manomet Conservation Sciences. And it was a really huge moment for us, a culmination of a lot of really hard work, but also the beginning of a really wonderful and exciting journey together as a united organization with greatly increased capacity for important education work. And so I'm going to start us off by introducing Kathryn Atkins, who is the director of the Wade Institute. And Kathryn has two graduate degrees, one in education and one in conservation biology. And her career has really spanned these spaces. She began as a middle school science teacher in the New York City public schools. But she's also done informal education work. She's worked in the zoo community, and eventually moved into science education leadership. And she's a natural leader and facilitator, and her background has made her a really great fit for our organization. And she's been a really invaluable partner for me as we've navigated the complexities of this merger. It is rare for two nonprofits to merge like this. And although we've all been working very hard, I think it's fair to say that no one has worked harder or contributed more than Kathryn to making this a success. So, and she's the person front and center in this picture. But I'd like to introduce Kathryn now, and she's actually going to tell you about another education giant that was with us for a while as part of the Wade Institute at Manomet.
Thank you, Molly. So this picture was taken right after the merger. And I love this picture because almost the entire environmental education and outreach team is here. Before we talk a little bit more about the work we've been doing over the past year, I'd like to acknowledge a really valuable member of our staff and the science education world who we recently lost. Next slide, please. So this is a picture of Kathy Renfrew in her element. She's leading a closed reading of a children's book about water resources to a room full of educators at the Massachusetts Environmental Education Society conference. Kathy was really a giant in the world of science education. She was an elementary school teacher in Bradford, Vermont from 1976 to 2008, and this is where she earned her lifelong reputation as the science lady. Kathy then went on to work for the Vermont Department of Education for another decade before she moved to Massachusetts. And when Kathy came to Massachusetts, she joined the Wade Institute for Science Education, and then, of course, became part of Manomet Conservation Sciences when our two organizations merged last April. And she dove right into Manomet science, and she was very excitedly sharing her latest discoveries of children's books on shorebirds and migration with us. Kathy's passion for science education led her to become nationally recognized in the field of elementary science education, and she was a particularly strong advocate for the incorporation of literacy into science education. She received the Presidential Award for Elementary Science Education at the White House in 2000. And just last month, she was honored with a Presidential Citation Award from the National Science Education Leadership Association, an organization that had benefited greatly from Kathy's voice for many decades. It was a real honor to work with Kathy. She was a veritable fountain of creative ideas for our work, and we are sad that she won't continue on our journey supporting teachers in the science classroom. Molly?
Thanks, Kathryn. And we'll hear more from Kathryn later. And I agree. I'm very glad that I had the chance to work with Kathy over this last year, and I learned a lot from her. And she will be missed, but she leaves a pretty amazing legacy for kids across New England and across the US. All right, so our first story, and another way we're honoring Kathy, by the way, is by telling these stories, because she was a storyteller and very focused on stories and literature. So we can keep that in mind too. So our first story is about connecting teachers to Manomet's work and to science. And from Manomet's point of view, one of the most important strategic reasons to bring in the Wade Institute is that teachers are catalysts and they're community leaders. So one middle school or high school science teacher likely works closely with 80 to 100 students on a daily basis each year, and hence thousands of students over the course of a teaching career. And so we really at Manomet are interested in getting better at building coalitions and collaborations that include and support teachers as key community members. And that's true here in Massachusetts and across the geographies where Manomet works. So to bring you this story, I want to introduce Kara Doherty. Kara is an education manager with the Wade Institute at Manomet. Her master's is in curriculum and instruction with a specialization in English as a second language. And she is a former elementary teacher. And I will say, Kara is the driving force behind many of our most exciting and creative programs and partnership building. And so somebody that's really exciting to work with and just a fountain of good ideas and energy. So she's going to start us off.
Thanks so much, Molly. And I want to share a bit with all of you about a specific WADE program at Manomet from last summer. So, for a long time now, the WADE Institute has really aimed to connect educators in our professional learning programs directly to scientists and experts in their field. As Molly mentioned, this was really in support of Patty's original vision and goals for the WADE Institute. And so it was really, really exciting for us to complete this merger, and a science-focused organization such as Manomet was a great and natural fit for us in order to, it really allows us to further our goals that we've had for so long. And now we get to have scientists in our own back pocket, which has been really exciting. So we've been working to develop teacher-facing programming, as we do, that would allow us to feature Manomet's work and science. And so that was really like our immediate priority as we joined the organization last spring, was finding a way to overlap the two in a way that made sense to us, to teachers, to our audience. And so last summer, just after the merger, we offered a 3-day summer institute for teachers called Songbirds, Shorebirds, and Stewardship that you'll see on the slide here. And this program focused on engaging teachers and thus their students with the science of breeding, nesting, and tracking migration. It was primarily for middle school teachers, but we hosted quite a few others at Manomet HQ. And they also were investigating how songbird and shorebird populations are being impacted by human development, by climate change, by habitat disruptions, etc. It was a really, really wonderful institute. And this photo here is us at Ellisville Beach in Plymouth, where we did an informal shorebird survey and many ID activities. Some of these teachers had never gone looking for birds or really identified a shorebird before, so it was really a lot of fun. Next slide, please. And so typical WADE instructors aside, many other Manomet science team members were included on this program for the first time. So Lily Green, a science educator, Kevin Dalton, and the rest of the seasonal banding crew at the time from the environmental ed team were a really vital part of building and facilitating this program, as was Lisa Shibley, who you'll see in this photo here in the blue shirt. She's our North American coordinator for the International Shorebird Survey, and she led our teachers at the Ellisville Beach exploration and answered any possible questions that our teachers could come up with or could think about during the day of shorebirds. We also had a session with Liana D'Annunzio, a shorebird biologist on our Resilient Habitats team. She was able to speak about Manomet's current projects and do a lengthy Q&A with our educators. And so it's been really meaningful having Manomet colleagues from the science side utilized in our education side. And so typically after our workshops and our institutes, we always have teachers complete surveys about their experiences. So feedback for us, of course. And we got an overwhelming amount of positive feedback about the presentations and activities from the Manomet scientists, which was really, really exciting as our first program, really heavily overlapping the two. And you can see a quote highlighted on this slide here, which was one of my favorites from our feedback surveys. I'll give you a moment to look at that if you haven't yet. And something that teachers often want to walk out of our programs with is more specific science content knowledge. They they want to beef up their foundational background knowledge in these topics that we're exploring before they take that subject to their students. And so this has been a really, really great way to get the information to the teachers right from the source. And the teachers love the opportunity to ask questions directly to these Manomet scientists. And clearly, based on the feedback we got, they really benefit from it. Next slide, please. Future directions. So it's been really helpful for us to consider the successes of that shorebird songbird stewardship program as we continue to develop and strategically plan the workshops that are upcoming, and to be able to include the Manomet science data and field work that's happening. So this coming summer, we have expanded institutes to include other themes like conservation and climate resilience. We are also looking in the future to expand our professional development to additional geographies where Manomet works. And as for other future directions, as we know, teachers do a lot. Teachers work really hard and are required to cover a lot in a limited amount of time. So a goal for us is really offering flexible programming to meet their specific professional learning needs. And so, for example, this summer, we are experimenting with new formats for our programming. So for example, we're having a hybrid 3-day program for a summer institute in Lowell, and it will function as 2 half-days that'll be synchronous online and 2 full days in person in Lowell. And typically our summer programs are all in person, 3, 4, or 5 days. But we're curious to keep making adjustments and to see what the teacher feedback looks like as we meet the moment and change with the times. We plan to continue improving and adjusting our programming to best fit what our population is looking for. And before I hand it back to Molly to go to our next story, I'll just mention we have a lot to share with you today. So if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A block below, and we'll grab those at the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Kara. I should have mentioned that at the beginning, but yes, we'll be collating those questions from the Q&A box, so please direct them there. Okay, so one of my favorite things about the Wade Institute is the role that it plays in empowering teachers to do their jobs better and with more confidence. And it does this with individual programs like the one Kara was telling you about. That's the type of program that individual teachers might be interested in and sign up for during their summer. But the Wade Institute also supports entire school districts as they tackle their core science instruction job. And Massachusetts tends to be at the forefront of best practices in science education nationally. And so teachers in schools tend to be aiming high here in Massachusetts across the board. But of course, that also comes with a lot of challenges. And so we spent, the Wade Institute in particular, spent a lot of time thinking about how do we support teacher professionals who are and teams of teachers from a school effectively. And so to tell us about that, I'm going to introduce Regan McKinnon, who's also an education manager at the Wade Institute at Manomet. And his master's in education is from UMass Boston, and he spent 7 years as a high school science teacher at Boston Public Schools before entering the realm of teacher professional learning. And I'll say in a team that's pretty full of curriculum nerds, Regan still stands out. He's our lead for a type of curriculum called Open Science that he'll tell you about, which is a real driving force in science education right now here in Massachusetts. And Regan doesn't just support schools in adopting high quality curriculum material. As you're going to hear from him, he's one of the experts sitting at the table helping craft our statewide approach to professional learning for science teachers. And so we really appreciate him and the amazing work he's doing for science education in Massachusetts.
Thanks, Molly. You can head to the next slide. Thanks. So thank you. As Molly mentioned, I'm an education manager. I'm really proud to share that our school-based work in supporting teachers has been really busy since the merger last April. Since then, we have worked with over 14 different districts across Massachusetts in the past year, and a lot of them have return back to us for multiple days or multiple programs. And so we've been really honored to continue to work with many of our district partners, supporting them year after year in the deep work that is involved with all of the things going on with curriculum implementation. And we think this is really only made possible by doing work and doing really deep work and building relationships with teachers and their leaders and targeting really what the teachers really need. One of the things that I think sets us apart is our ability to customize our programs exactly to meet the moment and to meet what teachers really need at that point in time. And we've also made some new connections with districts we haven't worked with before, which has been really also really exciting. And I'm really excited to share that they're already asking when can we come back next year, which is cool. Next slide, please. As Molly mentioned, the majority of our school-based work is in support of districts that are adopting high quality instructional materials, or HQIM, which is a recent best practice education trend that is used to better meet state education standards and improve student outcomes. And the curriculum that we work with most closely is OpenSciEd, which is a free high quality curriculum, which was designed actually with feedback from Massachusetts state leaders, teachers, and their students. And one of the things that has become really clear as we've started to engage in this work is that this is actually really challenging work. It's not really easy to just pick this up and get started, which is where we as trained experts on the curriculum and how to use it come in. We provide training for teachers at the district level, supporting them as they launch, as they start, but also for years to come afterwards as they begin to use more and more of the curriculum. And we hear from teachers that we work with that this is really needed, and also there's need for more. And so we've been thinking a lot about like, how can we continue to meet this moment in education? How can we better support teachers? You can head to the next slide. So we've been thinking about how to strategically support teachers internally. And so we've been thinking about expanding what we are currently offering for professional learning with OpenSciEd. And as I mentioned, we've heard from districts and teachers that they often need more than what we can provide when they first get started. So as a result, one of the ideas that we came up with for expanding what we're offering is to provide more personalized wraparound support after we train teachers by offering instructional coaching in their schools. So after getting to actually observe them in action in their classrooms, we can give them more individualized, more personalized, more contextualized feedback to continue to improve their practices and improve student outcomes. We had the amazing opportunity to do that this year with Lowell High School, which is implementing the biology curriculum, and are excited to do more of that moving forward, both with Lowell and other districts across the state. Next slide. We've also been keeping busy in terms of catching up to where the market is right now. We've been keeping up with some of the innovative work that OpenSciEd, the curriculum that we work with, has been doing in terms of revamping their professional learning. This past spring, all of us at Wade got trained on the new model, the academy model, as they're calling it, for middle school, which centers really on what do teachers need? How do you actually use this curriculum? How do you start really well? And how do you have a really productive and successful launch? And so for high school, I've actually had the exciting opportunity to be a contributing member as a part of the design team for this high school teacher academy that you can see on the screen here, which is launching this summer, actually next week. And this collaboration with OpenSciEd has opened up other doors for us. It actually allowed us to take our work out of state. We did a training last fall with the Rhode Island Department of Education to train all of their state's high school or physics high school teachers as they embarked on their curriculum adoption journey, which was really cool. And on the next slide, I'm going to describe, we're not only working with high school, but we're actually expanding elsewhere. One of the most exciting things that we have started to do this year is to actually get into the elementary world, which is not something we had done a lot of with OpenSciEd, as it just came out. It was newly released in the last year or so. Last April, we were trained by OpenSciEd facilitators and curriculum writers at an event that the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, or DESE, put on, making us certified from all the way from K through 12 for open-site professional learning, which is cool to offer like a whole range of schooling. And in November of last year, we hosted our very first elementary training, which was a really unique opportunity for us to connect actually two different districts, Taunton and Scituate Public Schools, and their fifth grade teachers at Manomet's headquarters in Plymouth. And it was also a really great opportunity for us to, show off some of the really expertise that we have in our team. One of which being Kara, who you just heard from. She's a former elementary teacher, so she got to actually work with teachers that, at the same level. I'm a middle school and high school teacher, so elementary is not my forte, but it was really awesome to see her in action, as well as one of our education specialists, who's a former sixth grade teacher, who was really was really phenomenal in her work on this program. The other thing I would just say is that these teachers actually returned back to us in March for their second training. So we're getting, districts that are working with us more than once. And as you can see in this picture, they were doing some investigating and having a lot of fun with it. So it's really cool to see. And on the next slide, one of the really cool opportunities for us to integrate our department together was actually as a follow-up to that training that I was just speaking to. The unit that we trained them on last November was about ecosystems and matter cycling, so living things and the things that are around them. And several of these teachers actually came back to Manomet in the spring with their students this time as part of a Manomet environmental education program on decomposition, which was one of the topics in the unit. So they got to actually go explore Manomet's grounds for decomposers to apply what they had learned in the classroom from the unit that we trained them on. So this was a really awesome opportunity to see a crossover between, the Wade side training the teachers and the Manomet environmental education side facilitating school groups on the other side. And lastly, on the last slide, I'll wrap up by saying that looking forward, one of the ways that we're really excited about to continue to support teachers is collaborating with OpenSciEd Massachusetts community this fall to provide some professional learning training for districts that are interested in this curriculum in OpenSciEd, but they're not quite ready to fully commit to adoption. And they want to just kind of dip their toes in, do what we call a curriculum pilot. And so we're really excited to be able to work with them this fall. And with that, I will hand it back to Molly to tell you about our third story.
Thanks, Regan. All right, so our third story is also focused a little more broadly across the state. One priority that we've had here at Manomet for quite some time is this idea that science should be accessible and high quality, hands-on science opportunities should be available to all students, regardless of the city that they live in, regardless of their background. And so we're proud to be part of a really broad coalition of folks here in the state of Massachusetts that work really hard to extend that kind of programming to students across the state, particularly in the context of the state STEM week. And so Kara is going to join us again to tell us the story about See Yourself in STEM.
Great, thank you. And we'll go to the next slide. So every October, if you're unfamiliar, Massachusetts celebrates STEM Week for science, technology, engineering, and math. And the Executive Office of Education and the STEM Advisory Council fund a number of organizations like ourselves to support this STEM Week programming. And so STEM Week really is a statewide effort that is to boost student engagement, awareness, and access to all students being able to see themselves in STEM and to open them up to STEM opportunities they may not typically get all year round. And so us at Wade, we've participated a number of times in STEM Week, in this particular STEM Week project through the Executive Office of Education. And we've created 6 unique engineering design challenges over the years that are mini units. So they have lessons and they have some design challenges and then a final big design challenge at the end, usually targeted towards middle school teachers and students, but we've had K-12 teachers participate. And actually even last year, and beyond into college. And what's particularly special about the STEM challenge each year for us is that it's free for teachers and students to participate, which makes it extremely accessible. And because it's free, we get an average of 100 registrations, so 100 individual teachers each year, where we're able to provide them with these mini units, both online and hard copies. And then we're also able to supply them with a large teacher physical supply kit. So they have all the items that they need to successfully implement all of the activities in the mini unit in their classroom with students. And another reason we really love doing STEM Week each year is because it helps us make STEM more accessible across the state. And it really engages students in STEM that may decide a STEM pathway could be for them. It could be right for their future. And that gets us really excited. Next slide, please. So this past fall, STEM Week 2025, we offered an engineering design challenge called H2WO, Hydro Engineers at Work. And so we designed and wrote this mini unit focused on collecting and filtering rainwater. The photo on the left here is from our teacher training, and the photo on the right is from a school implementation that followed with students, of course. And the teachers and the students in both of these photos are actually doing the same challenge. So they're doing one of the pieces of the final challenge of this particular curriculum packet. And so for the teachers, we offered both virtual workshops and in-person workshops. And essentially what we do each year with them is we walk through all of the lessons in the mini unit so that they can preview the activities and the design challenges available to them and their students. And this is really popular and really helpful with our teachers because then they feel a lot more prepared to do it themselves in their own classroom and to take it to their students because they've done it through the lens of a student with us first. Next slide, please. And so we typically partner each year with another organization, depending on what the science theme is. And so for this past year, for 2025, we moved our work towards the center of the state in the Pioneer Valley, and we partnered with the Hitchcock Center for the Environment, which has a really, really amazing site. And in this photo, you can see part of their rainwater capture system that is part of a much larger system that they have there that we got to explore with the teachers. So 86 materials kits were delivered last year to teachers throughout the state for this activity. And as Molly mentioned earlier, middle school teachers can have upwards of 100 students during the school year. And so we estimated that in 2025, this mini unit that we designed, H2O, reached about 9,000 students. And in the teacher's career, a lot of these teachers continue to use them. We try and build the materials kits so that they are reusable year to year. And the more they participate, the more kits that they have over time. And so really this could develop into thousands more students participating in this particular challenge. And we really love it. We hope and plan to continue this work in supporting STEM Week each year. And I'm going to pass it back to Molly to introduce our story number 4.
Thanks, Kara. Okay, so this is our final story. And before I launch into it, I'll just remind you that if you have questions, please do add those into the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. So it's a little different from the regular chat. And we'll be addressing those questions at the end. Thanks in advance. Okay, so our final story, in many ways, so you may have noticed there's a theme in all of these stories about how the combined, like ways in which the combined education team has been able to work together. But our final story is one of my favorites because it really illustrates the strength of the combined team, and it's a very exciting new and ongoing opportunity. And so I'm going to welcome back Kathryn, who's going to describe what this new opportunity with Outward Bound is all about.
Thank you, Molly. Next slide, please. So in December, we responded to a request for proposal that was put out by the Kathleen Stone Island Outward Bound School and its partners. And they were looking for an organization to design a learning sequence for them with funding support from the Stone Foundation that could help their long-running and successful Outward Bound program on Kathleen Stone Island to engage with the Boston Public Schools. They wanted a learning sequence that had a stronger focus on science, and in particular, in climate resilience. Next slide, please. So Outward Bound has a very strong focus on social and emotional skills. Teamwork and courage are two examples of Outward Bound domains of thriving. And for the educational work that takes place on the island, which is at the centerpiece of this learning sequence, it was very important that we were designing science lessons that fit within this framework so that the lessons are contributing to Outward Bound's goals as well as to science goals. And this relevance to Outward Bound's goals really helps play to the strengths of the people who are going to be delivering these on-island lessons, the Outward Bound instructors. And it's also, quite frankly, something that is not often directly addressed in science education and not even in outdoor environmental education. The importance of these so-called soft skills to both academic and career success in the sciences, because these skills, teamwork and courage, they're going to serve you whether you're climbing the giant's ladder on a high ropes course or working together to collect water samples for testing in a local pond. Next slide, please. So this project also involves another really important partner, the Stone Living Lab. Stone Living Lab is a collaborative climate resilience research initiative. UMass Boston is the co-founder and the leading institutional partner in this organization. But this Stone Living Lab also includes the City of Boston, Boston Harbor Now, the National Park Service, and the Stone Foundation. So the Stone Living Lab is really a research hub with a focus on nature-based climate resilience solutions. So their role in the learning sequence that we're designing is science. We're using their local data sets on things like flooding and living seawalls to get the Boston Public School students excited about nature that's happening in their own backyards. Next slide, please. So in the current initiative, we're designing this series of lessons both for in the classroom and on the island for students in grades 7 through 9. These are science-focused lessons that are really going to support the long-running, successful Outward Bound School Connections program. So students are going to experience this learning in 3 stages, and this is the first stage, the pre-visit. So before they visit the island, while they're still in their classroom, students are going to start learning some of the background knowledge about the science themes that they'll then explore further when they're on island. So this work is aligned with the science curriculum that teachers are using in the schools, which is Open SciEd, and will also support both teachers and students to increase their buy-in and their connection with their island visits. So students in the classroom are exploring local phenomena, asking questions, and they're figuring out how to find answers. So this learning sequence is really designed to inspire their curiosity and again uses that data from the Stone Living Lab research and projects with this goal of helping students better understand the city's climate challenges and also the potential solutions to those challenges, and to really set them up for success during their island visits. Next slide, please. The next part of the sequence is when they're on island. So the students are going to take these science themes from the pre-visit lessons forward in really meaningful ways. They're going to take action by actually doing science. They're going to be scientists on the island collecting data, and they're going to engage in really robust and hands-on place-based investigations in this wonderful outdoor environment on Kathleen Stone Island. They're going to participate in work that's designed to complement the existing Outward Bound school courses. So these are science activities that are going to have a through line with those domains of thriving that I referenced earlier that align with the Outward Bound programming. So for example, if the 8th graders are on island doing an intertidal study and they're using quadrats together to look at the organisms and collect data, there are a lot of ways that they can reflect on the really necessary use of some of these outward bound skills like teamwork and perseverance and self-awareness. Next slide, please. And the final component is the post-island visit. So after their island experience, students are going to go back to their classroom and they're going to continue to carry their thinking and actions forward by applying what they've learned to a community-oriented project. So there's a real opportunity here for the students to participate in environmental stewardship. And we're going to provide multiple options for teachers to really be able to pick a project that's aligned well with their students' interests. It's an opportunity for the students to synthesize everything they've learned, both in the social emotional context and in the science context, to really take action on a project-based learning experience. And some examples of these experiences might be an engineering design project, or it could be a community and participatory science submission, or it could be a community storytelling project. Next slide, please. So to reflect back a little bit, our application for the Kathleen Stone Island Outward Bound School Grant was successful because it required the new combination of skill sets that Manomet and Wade have together. Kathleen Stone Island was looking for a partner organization that had some really deep curriculum expertise, including familiarity with the Boston Public Schools and Open SciEd. And they also needed a partner who had expertise in environmental education and the ability to connect with the outward bound priorities. The Stone Living Lab, who I've mentioned a couple of times, this university-based collaborative, needed an organization with scientific credibility, which came from both Manomet staff and Wade's scientific reputation, and also credibility in teaching about climate resilience and environmental stewardship, which Manomet has been working on for years as an organization. And this initiative also, and I think most importantly, required a focus on capacity building and on partnerships, which is something that both Wade and Manomet have been known for. We were able to really point to that reputation, as well as a demonstrated multi-year commitment to DEI and J through the Manomet for All programming, which was really also a factor in the Kathleen Stone Island decision-making process. So what does the future hold for us? Kathleen Stone Island, the Stone Living Lab, and the Boston Public Schools, these are all new partners for Manomet, at least in recent organizational memory. And the Stone Foundation is a new funder. And so we're really excited about the long-term possibilities to continue with these collaborations. And we're excited to continue in the vein of all the stories that we've shared with you today. Together, Wade and Manomet are able to do more and to reach more people and deliver programs in a way that we just haven't been able to before. And we're really excited to see where our combined strengths are going to take us next. Molly?
Thanks, Kathryn. And thanks, everyone. I think we should maybe have everyone unhide themselves on the panel. And we would love to take any questions. I'm going to maybe stop sharing so that you can see us a little better. And Kara, do we have any questions in the Q&A box?
We do. We have a few, and I think actually one came in right before we talked about the Outward Bound School that may have answered that. But let's start and do a little run through. We have a couple here. This first one, Molly, I'm going to give to you. It says, are there plans to expand teacher professional development geographically beyond Massachusetts?
Why, yes, there are. We would really, this first year we have been focused on sort of the first phase, which is getting solidifying our ability to work together and working on some of the initiatives we've been talking about. But since the beginning, in our 5-year strategic plan, one of our goals is to really work on geographic expansion. Now, we have done some work nearby. Regan mentioned our work in Rhode Island, for example. But yeah, we've been looking for opportunities to do work like this in some of the other geographies where Manomet does its work. So we were very excited about that. And go ahead. I was going to say that does involve sort of working with other states, figuring out education requirements and identifying ways to offer. So when a teacher comes to professional learning with us here, of course, they earn professional development points from the state of Massachusetts, and they have the option to earn graduate credit as well. And every state is a little bit different in how they handle that. And so we're excited to maybe find collaborators in other states and think about what that looks like.
Great, thanks, Molly. That kind of lends itself into another question we have here, which is, if funding wasn't a limiting factor, what would be one goal you'd like to achieve? And I'm sure we have many answers. We talk about this all the time, and we like to dream big. But I think mine goes hand in hand with what Molly was sharing beyond Massachusetts is that a big part of my work is with the summer institutes. And we've talked before about possibly doing travel institutes and offering the ability for teachers to be able to go somewhere new, near or far, to do this institute work with us and with experts and learning what's locally relevant to the location that we're at. Maybe it's even going to the Manomet fisheries team that we have in Maine doing an aquaculture program or something with restoration of river herring. Something like that would be really, really exciting to be able to take teachers to travel with us rather than keeping them in a regional workshop area. I don't know if anyone has any other additions to that question, but that was what comes up first for me.
I'll dream big. I wish we could offer all of our teacher programming free of cost to teachers. Teachers are not receiving the support that they need from their districts financially, which I'm not faulting the districts for that. There are serious limitations on funding right now. And so then it limits teachers' abilities to participate in our programs without it being a little bit of a pinch for them. So if I were dreaming big, all of our programs are free someday soon.
I think for me, a kind of a version of that is there really is a disparity right now in which districts can afford to hire, for example, an organization like us to come in and offer really deep support. And so I think what I would choose is the ability to offer really, so not just trainings, but also coaching and mentoring to science teams in districts that can't afford to pay for that. So something maybe a little more targeted, but I think that's so that would be a huge step towards equitable access to high quality science education in Massachusetts.
Another question we have here came in about halfway through the presentation, so we may have started to answer that, but it says, can you share a rewarding experience working together or an example of impact? I think a big piece for me and probably Regan and all of us was the Taunton folks coming back. And when they came to Manomet HQ, they did those 2 Open SciEd 5th grade trainings with us. And many of them hadn't been there and let alone explored the property and knew what Manomet had to offer for student groups. And so it was really, really exciting to see them on the environmental ed calendar, that it wasn't just the teachers coming, but they liked it enough and they enjoyed our training enough and the space to want more, to bring all of their 5th graders back from the district. So that was really exciting. And for impact, I think a lot of that goes in with what Kathryn was saying about our current work with Kathleen Stone Island. We're hoping that has a really large impact. Did anyone have any other additional pieces they wanted to add to that? I think those are 2 of our really large ones at the forefront right now.
I don't think it's rewarding yet, but I think the shore project with the Kathleen Stone Island will be very rewarding once we're done with it and get to see it in action, get to see it really pan out the way we imagine it to. We're kind of in the thick of things right now, so it's been really cool though to see and leverage both sides of the expertise in our organization as a result of this merger in this project in particular.
Yeah, I had a chance to work with those 5th graders from Taunton directly, and they were pretty awesome. Not all 5th graders are super focused, and they actually were. They stood out. So that was it was really fun to see those. The teachers had, I think, prepared them really well for the trip, and so that was. I agree with that one.
And we have, I believe, just one more here. This may be best suited for Kathryn, but I'm not sure. It says, I understand teachers who participate in the workshops receive feedback from staff and each other, but are there opportunities for direct feedback from students?
Sure, Kara. I will put my 2 cents in on that. We do when we're doing workshops with teachers. They submit projects and we provide evaluative feedback for those projects. And we also give them an opportunity to really talk to and learn from each other, which I think is one of the important things about our workshop programs, is that there's a community of learners amongst the teachers, and they get to benefit from thoughts and ideas from teachers at different schools, which helps to broaden their thinking. And so in terms of direct feedback from quote, real students, I think it's something that we would love to pursue a little bit more to get some feedback from teachers about the implementation. And we have of work that they do. We have done some of that work in the past where we bring teachers back to us, but we haven't had the opportunity yet to do any sort of direct feedback with students. That is, however, part of what we're planning to do on Kathleen Stone Island. We're going to be gathering some feedback and data through the teachers who are participating in this program with how the implementation felt from their student perspective. And so I think that's going to be really invaluable both for the teachers and for us as we think about ways to gather this information and make the best use of that data in future design. If anyone else has any other thoughts, please feel free to add them.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think on the open side, as I was describing, one of the really exciting opportunities we were pursuing is the instructional coaching. We don't typically provide teachers with feedback outside of that, as it's typically the other way around. They're giving us really important feedback to improve our programming. And I think to the question itself, I would say that it really depends on the teacher. I think and the school and the district they're in. A lot of teachers that I worked with when I was in the classroom were, really open to hearing what students needed and preferred. And so would often do, student interest surveys or would gather some informal feedback from them. And so I think that's something we would definitely encourage teachers to do, but not something that's necessarily required or anything like that.
Any other questions for us about WADE programs or teachers or any of the things we talked about today? All right, everyone. We would love to thank you for taking the time to join us today for, I think supporting teachers and raising the importance of working with the supporting teachers is one of our top priorities. So just by showing up and joining us today, you've sort of helped raise that profile. So we really appreciate that. We appreciate your time and attention. And thank you very much as we wrap up this school year, and you thank a teacher this summer. Anything else to add, folks?
No, just thank you. And our emails are always open if you think of more exciting questions or want to chat further.
Absolutely.
Thank you all for
All
being
right.
here today.
Thank you all.